Okay, so the first thing, I didn't print my agenda. The first thing on the agenda was any other goals or recommendations from any category, any other meetings that have happened since the last master plan committee meeting, that other goals or recommendations were made?
I've got some things I think I want to do, but I'm a little behind schedule, so I apologize. I've not been able to spend the time I'd hoped on it since the last meeting, but I will do that over the next couple of weeks here before the next meeting. For the
On goals and recommendations, Sam, or on the chapter that you were
the whole
working?
thing. The whole thing. I want to rethink some of the goals a little bit, but no huge changes. But again, I want to go through there again.
I had thought I had an addition of a goal related to bike paths based on my conversations with Kat. But Kat, I haven't had a chance to tell you this yet. It turns out that Judith just let me know that that's in another section, in the sense of community section. So I think probably we are okay and don't need to add that.
Karen, it's in accessibility connectivity.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, accessibility. Okay, great. So we were surprised that we didn't see it in our section, but then we realize now that it's in another section. So I think that that's sufficient, from my opinion. What do you think, Kat? I think you're on mute.
Still mute.
No,
Yeah,
she's not
yeah.
on mute anymore.
You're not on mute, but maybe you need to turn it up or something. I can't hear you.
No.
I wish I could read lips. Yes, I'm okay with it. No, I'm not. Okay, cool. Good.
I also had a few that I had sent over to Judith like maybe 20 minutes ago. She asked me for them a few days ago. I did quickly run through them last meeting. Judy, do you want to do you want to, I don't know how we're planning on doing this, but do you want to present them as part of the document that you have, or did you want me to go through them?
I haven't had a chance to add them to the list.
Totally fair.
Let me see.
There's only a few. They're pretty basic. And I think that probably some of them, if not all of them, are covered either in other parts of the master plan under other sections, or they're just not doable, and we've kind of touched on them previously. So
why don't we do this, Gina? Because I just got an email from Neil tonight to say that as long as we don't distribute it, we can have a draft copy of the hazard mitigation plan.
Yep.
So why don't we take a look at that and your suggested additional recommendations and work something up for the next meeting?
Okay.
That reflects that.
Perfect.
I do have Tom and Sarah. You had sent. Oops. Can I get sharing, Sarah? Can I share?
Yes, sorry about that.
Oops.
You should be all set. Don't forget to click that little button there.
So Tom, I don't know. So Tom, do you want to just speak to? I've just, if everyone can see this.
So yeah,
I've added the ones you added them in blue. There's 1.3 and 3.3.
when you say you, it's Sarah is doing above and beyond as usual.
Thank you.
So I don't want to take any credit where she's above and beyond. She's doing it.
She's like, yeah, I am.
I'm a slacker.
No. Thank you. I'm. It's fine. Thank you.
So we did have a chance to review it. There's in the narrative part, they wanted to change a few of the wording, which we're going to be working on. But like I said, the things that Sarah has in blue are the net new from what you guys, well, the committee has not seen. And also I'm going to give kudos to Sarah. She started the chapter revision. Now it's in my lap right now for the next couple of days to do, additional refinements of that chapter. So that's more of an FYI. I don't think it's appropriate to present it tonight, to really go drill down in it, because we still got a lot of work on it. Well, I have to do a lot of work on it.
But the ones that you added in here, the develop a 5-year strategic plan, I think we talked about that.
Yes, we did.
On one of the meetings where we'd gone through the 2008 recommendation review. And then this one down at the bottom about accessory apartments, I'm pretty sure that sounds familiar as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, it's in the document, so it's all there.
Yeah. Okay.
We did discuss.
So that was that one.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Tom, can I ask a question about housing?
Go ahead, Sam.
One of the things that's been interesting to me, and some committees have talked about this, I don't actually remember if the Shopsy discussion included this when I listened to at least part of the Shopsy meeting. The new housing choice zoning legislation the governor just signed at the end of December has focus on transit-related zoning, and there's money for that. I wondered, is it worthwhile to actually put some sort of a connection in here to leverage, take advantage of, or support, or whatever the transit accessible zoning as it relates to housing, because that's one of the key things that the state seems to be interested in, and there may be some money for that out there. It's not, the primary here, but I think that's an important thing that is potentially useful for the town.
So on the side note of that, we just had a Shopsy meeting on, I forget what morning, Monday or Tuesday morning. Mm-hmm. And the grant, I forgot the name of the grant that's been going around to submit to the state.
Oh, the one-stop grant?
Yes, the one-stop. So we are putting in a couple of recommendations for the town in that grant. And one of them is to look at, I don't want to call it 40R, but look into a zoning, I think they call it zoning subdistrict, a zoning
overlay.
Yes, around the train station. So part of that application for the grant is to look at that as a holistic, saying how big should be the overlay zoning, what can we do in that overlay zoning, again, all around the train station.
Yeah.
Our second one, and this is probably more of an FYI, is also to take a look at, and I use the phrase, thinking outside the box around Route 9. Can we do anything with some of those old buildings, not old buildings, those office buildings, to do some kind of mixed use? Again, we're not proposing anything. We just want to say, hey, if we get this grant along Route 9, thinking outside the box and thinking crazy, and let's don't do anything conventional. What can we do with that great piece of roadway right there than what it is today? So those are our two asks. Our number one ask is around the train station to do an overlay zoning. And how would they look, and how far should they go? I think if I could remember correctly, it can only be a half a mile away from the
mile away. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we want to take a look at. Again, it's, as I call it, it's not free money, but it is free money to us for the town. Let's use it, and like I said, let's see what we can do down there.
But I think those are the kind of things I think that are helpful to have in the master plan, at least as a placeholder, and we don't need a lot of detail around that, but it's great. One of the ways I've seen the old master plan used is when people have a project or whatever, it's been helpful to be able to go back to the old master plan and say, hey, this was in the master plan. That seems to generate public support sometimes, whether it's should or not. So I think that the more things we can include that we are interested in doing over the next 5-10 years here to allow people to connect to that in the plan is worth thinking about, at least. And again, the state, particularly in the transit nodes, is committing to spend some money more specifically than the Route 9 stuff. So anyway.
I agree. I think we should put it in there. I think thinking about it, yes, it's something that's actively being pursued upon to see, what kind of overlay zoning we can do around the train station. So yes, let's put it in there. Like you said,
don't need a lot of detail, but just a hook there so people can refer to and develop later, maybe. So
I agree. Totally agree.
And I had a question, Tom. In addition to the remove zoning barriers for accessory apartments, did Shopsy talk about removing them for duplex houses also?
I think that was all, we wanted to make it broad, and I think that encompasses both in our
Okay.
mind. Yeah, want to scroll down, I think, Judith, we'll take a look at that. Maybe you want to change the wording, I guess.
Yeah, we could add duplex apartments. I think there was a bullet kind of just to discuss multifamily designation, since the town does designate a two-family as a multifamily, which isn't, usually multifamily is three and up. So kind of trying to decipher the duplexes versus the accessory apartments and kind of, I think, vet all that out. So we could probably either add that. I think we could add that to that bullet, just for some additional clarity as to what the goal is.
Judith, I don't know if you realize you're sharing the open space and green initiative as opposed to.
Yeah, I know it flipped.
Okay.
Switched it accidentally, and it's let me try again. I've got a real lag on my. I'm hotspotting off someone else's Wi-Fi right now, so.
So if you actually shut off your video, you'll save some bandwidth.
You don't want to see me anymore?
No.
We want you to go to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah. Right.
No, right now you're on the top of my screen.
I'm upset, but that's
You're
all
on the
right.
top now, Tom, from what I can see. I think you, whatever you did, it worked.
Oh, really? I got Judith on top of me.
You're on the top.
All
as
right.
far as I'm
You
concerned.
need to be careful about what we're saying on these calls. Okay, what can you see now? Are we back on housing?
No, we're still on open space.
Nope.
Okay, hang on a minute.
Yeah, sometimes you have to
now
turn the
Kate's
share
number
screen
one.
off and back on again.
Okay,
Keep position 1A.
right. Can you
There
see
you
this
go.
now?
Now you're in the right spot.
Yep.
Okay, what did we want to change?
I think it would probably go into right after, well, the first point we discussed would be 3.3, a little bit wordsmithing there. And then the first one, I think it would be a 1.4 to what Sam just mentioned.
I agree.
Okay, hang on a sec. Let me just. Someone want to dictate?
Consider housing diversity, particularly around transit nodes,
Around,
train station, Southville train station.
no, just do
Say transit-oriented development.
yes, because what happens if the bus route is a little bit more robust? Maybe that'll be an option.
Yep.
So
Good.
around mass transit hubs. That's pretty, I won't say vague. I don't want it to be vague, but it
Vague is
maybe
okay.
an option.
Concept is clear. That's important.
Yes. And then 3.3, we want to accessory apartments. I think Mimi, you're talking about duplexes and such.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again. 3.3.
Yep,
What do we do?
3.3. Mimi, what were you saying about the duplex?
So currently we allow accessory apartments and duplexes, but it's a special permit. And so if
okay.
you're removing the zoning barriers for accessory apartments, I know Jesse Stein brought up
And duplex.
also
And duplexes.
duplexes, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you just add and duplexes.
Is that an?
I mean,
yeah,
but that's my suggestion. It's up to, if everyone else
Sounds
agrees
good.
with that or not.
I like it.
Are we good with that?
Good to me.
Good to me. As long as it's good to Sarah, that's all that matters.
Throw in
Good with me.
triplexes for good measure.
I
Tom,
think
you're gonna have
it's
to
ironic
flowers
that
and
it
chocolates
suggested this
shortly.
new.
Oh, it'd be more than chocolates, let me tell you.
Words are cheap,
I know, words are cheap.
but we love you for it.
It'd be like an Uber Eats, or what's the other one, Grubhub?
Okay, perfect. And so let me just say that. I think that's just done it then. Okay,
It's
so
a
are
dot.
we done with this one?
Yep.
Let me just correct the spelling.
Typo in 1.4, right? I guess it's okay. Yeah.
What?
Nope. It sorted
Which
itself
one?
out.
Oh, what?
Looked like there was a typo in 1.4, but it fixed itself.
It's artificial intelligence.
That's right.
Okay. So let me take that out and I will share. Okay. Let me share open space. So this is just a couple of changes. I actually went through the whole of this section with the Conservation Commission 3 weeks ago because I wanted to make sure that they were on board with everything, as we will be responsible for delivering on some of them. So there were a couple of changes that they asked for on the first goal around on the environmental, around green initiatives. So and it is quite good because it links to a conversation that we were having when we went through the MVP summary of findings and those recommendations. And we had, there was a reference in the summary of findings to wetland protection and upgrading the bylaws, but we didn't have anything specific. And I went back into the data for that and there wasn't anything really there. But the Conservation Commission has asked that we add wetland protection and stormwater bylaws to the goal here because they would like to take a fresh pair of eyes look at those regulations. So that changes the goal. And then what I did was just reword this recommendation. So it's now speaking to all levels of regulation and the latest research for wetland protection. So that means we can kind of pull in information from groups like the Massachusetts Conservation Commission group. So that was the only change. So I think that is probably okay. Everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was it. So the only one we haven't, I think we're still waiting for Katura to come back with kind of final approval from the school committee. There was just a couple of small things that I'd gone through with her on her goals, which was really kind of, actually, it was grouping the recommendations they come up with into 3 different goals to kind of maintain the consistency with the rest of the goals and recommendations. But I haven't heard from her this month, so
I actually just jumped off the Northborough Southborough, like the combined school committee meeting, so that's where she is right now.
that's right.
Yeah.
She said that they're overlapping at the moment, so
Yep. And actually this a question on the master plan committee update, I'm sorry, did come up, but it was an item that was removed from the agenda and I think deferred to the next. So
okay.
I don't know if it was deferred to the next. I just know it was removed from today's agenda.
Okay.
Kate, did Historic have a meeting since our last master plan?
No, we were supposed to have it last night, but there were no rooms. So I let Judith know that our meeting is now tomorrow night. So I'll provide an update as soon as possible. We don't have major feedback, but we just want to really be all on the same page. But I let her know, I gave her a few of our updates. So sorry.
Oh, no worries. I just didn't want you to feel left out.
I appreciate that. But no, yeah, we're meeting tomorrow. So hopefully ahead of the next meeting, I'll have an update for everybody.
So is that it for goals?
I think so, yeah.
I just want to reiterate that youth commission, geez, recreation commission met yesterday. And I just reconfirmed we have no further planned changes to our goals.
So Christian, does that mean that what we reviewed in the current chapter is what they're okay with?
I have to double check that the current chapter is updated with, you know, what we've been working on. So I'll do that.
Great.
But we have the list is the point. So either I have to just copy and paste it in or not. And then we talked about the timeline that you proposed, and everyone's very comfortable with it.
Super.
So over the next 2 weeks, we're just going to work it offline. And then we have a meeting scheduled for the week of, sorry, give me a second, Tuesday, the week of, my calendar is not opening. There we go. We have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, March 23rd to finalize the chapter.
Okay. Awesome.
So I just want to thank Karen, who put together a really kind of a nice breakdown of what she saw in the current, you know, the 2008 plan, and how she suggested we structure for our combined chapter our updates. Everybody agreed it made sense. And so I do appreciate that legwork that you did.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's been good. So Kristen and Kat and I have met a couple times since our last meeting, and I think we've made some good progress.
Actually, do you want to, because you updated me on some of that as well, Karen. Do you want to, are we good to go into chapters now, Mimi?
Do we want to discuss the template?
We can, yes. Let's do it like that, yes. So let me show again, because one of the things that I talked to Karen about is she and Kat and Kristen have got some suggested updates, or it's kind of a next iteration on the template. Why does everything disappear? Wait a minute. But let me. No, that's not what I want. Got to get better at zooming. Actually, I don't want to get better at zooming. But everything's disappeared again now. I don't know. Sorry, bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had sent out to everybody, let me do this via this email. I had sent out to everybody a kind of an annotate, sorry, let me, can everyone see this? I'm sharing a Word doc, an email.
I can see it, yeah.
Okay. So I had sent out to everyone this email and then a copy of the template was kind of an annotated version of the transportation circulation chapter that I had started to edit. And if you remember what we said, the approach we were going to take was to create the 2020 draft plan based on updating the 2008 plan. So these were the kind of key sections that when I looked across the chapters in 2008, these were the sections that we would have been updating, along with just a little bit of a soundbite of what that would actually be. Now, I have full disclosure on my part. I have not done very much at all to update my 2 chapters. But Karen and Kat and Kristen have. And Karen, you've got a suggestion for taking this template structure to the next level. And if you want to.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to.
You want to share?
Yeah, so essentially just a little bit about the process. So Kat and I met a couple of times, and we took the good recommendation to use 2008 as a kind of initial framework. And we started to go through it. And in that process, we started making edits, kind of like what Sam and others covered in the last meeting. But then we started to notice that there was also an awful lot of information in the chapter that either needed to be updated or deleted because it was outdated. And some of it didn't even seem very linked to the goals that were originally, given in there as well. And so it was with that in mind that we went through this process. So I'm going to share my screen as the whole screen and see if it's big enough for you as opposed to the 2 documents, because I think it helps to kind of see it side by side. Can you guys see side by side right now, the chapter and the outline?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah, so this just to give you a little bit of a sense. So kind of like what was shared in the last meeting, what you'll see here is the 2008, and then we've gone through and we've made, certain edits. One of the first things we did is we went into these active organizations, and we tried to update the active organizations by going into the websites of those organizations and kind of copy and pasting, more updated, more current description. We also tried to confirm if all these even were in existence, and we found out that swamp, for example, wasn't in existence any longer. So we were feeling pretty good about this. We asked for paragraphs from trails, which was new, paragraphs from the Conservation Commission. And then there was a section on the current natural resources. This also seemed, good and important. There was some charts here, some of which I had no idea where to find the most current information, or didn't necessarily think, well, it was interesting. It wasn't necessarily linked to the goals. And it was around this point that we thought, I think just taking what's in 2008 and trying to update it feels, really overwhelming and not necessarily so linked to the goals. So that's when we started to think about what could be a chapter outline that we could utilize so that we could have a kind of approach to this where we would have a more clear direction around what do we keep and what do we get rid of. And this is what we initially have come up with, at least for our chapter, with the idea that if this looks interesting to you or like something that might help you with your chapters, we might have a kind of consistent flow in each of the chapters. And that might also help people who might have been feeling like Kat and Kristen and I were not really knowing like what to keep and what to get rid of. So what we started to think about was an introduction, which is kind of the big picture of the chapter. It would be important. And they did, of course, have an introduction in the 2008 here. We thought especially important in the introduction would be giving people a sense of where did this all come from in the first place, so making some linkages back to the visioning meeting, to the survey, and to some of the other sources. And then to really start to look at what have we accomplished in since the 2008 master plan. So there's a lot of information in the 2008 plan that's kind of like, to me, it kind of reads like a sort of State of the Union address, like this is everything we have. But if we could start to narrow it in a little bit in terms of what have we accomplished around open space since 2008? So it would be things like the Native Plant and Pollinator Initiative, the initiation of the Trails Committee, some of the more collaborative work that we're doing around with builders. And then what have we accomplished since 2008 in the Recreation Commission. And so I've talked to Kristen about this as well. And then we would go into the active organizations, which you could see was one of the things that we had spent the most time with kind of updating. And then this idea around the summary of natural resources, we did think this was probably really good and relevant to have a current description of our current state, to really start to look at this and really decide what are the relevant charts, and to delete the less relevant charts or charts where we just don't have updated information. And also add here, there is a natural resources summary that is already in one of the other chapters that Judith has been working on. So we thought we would add that here instead of having it separate. And we do a similar thing, of course, with Kristen being the lead, in terms of, what is the summary of recreation resources? And that did exist in the 2008 master plan. Down here in the bottom, you can see this pretty good list, useful list in terms of that. And then we would move into the goals. So what I have listed here is the current state in terms of the goals. I don't have the recommendations, but I have in the actual draft of the chapter just pasted in the goals and recommendations. But we would have each of the goals, and I tried to group them in terms of the open space goals, the recycling goals. These two goals didn't have a title, but I'm calling them for now the biodiversity goals, the ones related to invasive species and pollinators, and the recreation goals. And then if any of this information in the 2008 is relevant and should be updated as it relates to the goals, we would have a category of the goals and then a paragraph of the relevant information, then a category of the goals and a paragraph of the relevant information. So this is what we're currently seeing in terms of a structure. And then we also tried to think about, well, what are our milestones? What are our sort of key things we need to really think about? And what we found, I see now why that wasn't like that, was that and I don't know if we were really thinking about this, but we felt like we needed to have some goals for ourselves in terms of, Kat and Kristen and myself. If we're hoping to have something ready for town meeting, we know we don't need to vote on it for town meeting, but at least something that we could show. If we work backwards from that, what we thought is if we could match the goals list with the open space and rec plan, we want to do one last sort of view of that. And then hopefully have this chapter ready by the end of the month in a draft form. And then maybe the other chapters are finalized as well, because I think the more that we can harmonize the format of those, and then really starting to think about what kind of input do we need from the selectmen. My understanding is we don't need them to approve or vote, but is there anything that we need them to look at? And then we would finalize the plan, create some kind of executive summary that could maybe be circulated in soft copy or hard copy by the town meeting. So our main thing that we were thinking about was that by the end of the month, we wanted to be able to have this edited version be more of a draft of the 2021 plan for open space and green initiatives. So I'll kind of pause there, and just because that's a lot, I know that I've just indicated, and see kind of your thoughts, questions, comments, reactions to all that.
I really like it. I think in the 2008 plan, there's a lot of fluff, for lack of a better term. And I think it makes it less reader friendly. I think if, you're just a citizen of this town and you come to something like this and you really want to dive into it, you get to even just one chapter and it becomes a little bit overwhelming. So I really do like this format. The section that I have wasn't in the 2008 plan, so there will be probably some sections that I omit here. But overall, I think I like the way that you grouped them. I think it makes sense, and I think it's easy to read.
I have more of a procedural, like you said, Karen and Kat, etc. You're working on this section. Sarah and I working on another section. Who's the final wordsmith? at the end. It's gonna, each section, each chapter is gonna be a little bit different because we're different groups. Procedurally, we write all this stuff, we review it, it looks good. But who's the final wordsmith of the whole document?
I think it's a really important question. I've been a part of a couple of book projects where separate people have written separate chapters. And in the end, there really needs to be somebody who can create consistency around writing style and format. And that's one of the reasons now, too, why I'm proposing a kind of structure for the chapters, because I think the more that we can agree at a high level about our style and flow, the easier it's going to be for whoever that poor wordsmith person is at the end, which won't be me. But yeah.
I was a computer science major, by the way.
You're nominated.
Great wordsmiths, aren't they?
I vote for Tom.
If this was in COBOL, I could do it.
Yeah.
Me too. I speak COBOL.
So I don't have an answer to you. Does anybody else have what are we thinking in terms of process? Like, who does it go to in the end for a final,
Karen, a couple of options there. One is that some unlucky soul on the committee gets drafted to do it. Second, one could look around and find some editorial help. There are folks in town who are actually good editors in their day jobs, and maybe somebody could be pressed to volunteer to help with that. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Or a senior tax write-off too. I don't know what
But
talent.
I think we can all feel confident that someone does need to do that task. Someone needs to take each of the chapters.
Yep.
But I might go back to the outline here and the process here and just think, do you feel like when you think about your chapter, Tom, do you feel like this kind of structure of looking at sort of, if I go back to it here,
Yeah, scroll up.
like having a general introduction and then saying, what's been accomplished since 2008 and what are the organizations that are involved, and then having a summary of kind of our current state, and then we're really looking at then what's the future desired state if we look at it as a change.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. We definitely have to have, like I said, that was one of the things is everybody has a different style for everything. But if we try to follow that outline, which we should all agree on.
I'm just suggesting this as one format. If you guys say, oh, this should go first or that should go second, and we should, I'm totally open to that. But I think the more we could agree on a flow now, it's going to make it a lot easier later.
Agreed. Totally agree.
There's no perfect format, and I think what we need is a good format. This certainly looks like it to me. Not worth wasting a lot of time trying to find perfection on this one, but consistency to me is more important than
agreed
perfection here. And Karen, you guys are a step or two ahead of me. I was in the middle of grinding through my chapter, trying to figure out how the 2008 pieces fit and editing and restructuring and so forth, and was getting increasingly frustrated. So,
well, it's that frustration, Sam, that led me to this outline, because I was kind of like,
thank you for driving it to the next step, because I think this is very helpful, and it's a good model to sort of refocus us here in a more efficient way.
Good. Because for me as well, this was a little bit freeing to me, because it allowed me to sort of feel not guilty about getting rid of certain sections that are in 2008, like to be able to say, hey, it doesn't relate to our goals. And while it's fascinating information, interesting, it's not important for what we're trying to do right now.
In retrospect, it highlights the shortcomings of the work in 2008, as a matter of fact, in a lot of ways. It was as opposed to real planning and strategic thinking.
So Sam, I thought of that too when it says accomplishments, and I saw the second word, since, not the accomplishments of.
Yes. Yeah. My thought was
a
rebate from VHP.
I mean, I said, like, full disclosure, I haven't really done much. I've been working on some content pieces just to do a little bit more research, but I haven't really started writing any of my 2 sections. So I'm my sense is I had this kind of unconscious sense that it wasn't going to work the way that the first template was set out. So I'm very grateful that Karen and Chris and Kat kind of broke the barrier there.
Yeah.
I will take no
Dawning
credit.
on me when I
This
gave up.
was Karen and Kat, and I'm benefiting, and Rec is benefiting from their work, like their breakdown of this as well. So,
But just
Don't
to echo Sam's comment about the accomplishments, I do think that's a really important. I think that's an important section for us to kind of feel at liberty to put in there whatever we believe or our committees or research comes up with as accomplishments. Because if you look at do you remember we went through the 2008 recommendations back in October, and there's probably, I did a quick back of the envelope before tonight's meeting, there's about 50% of the 2008 recommendations are actually carried forward into this plan in one form or another. So I think it is going to be important that we look for, if you like, things that are potentially incremental to what was laid out originally in 2008 plan. Because otherwise, we end up, as Bonnie said, just kind of, saying that we haven't really achieved much, but we all know we have achieved a lot.
We have achieved a lot. And I would also, so I just wrote our annual report for the Open Space Preservation Commission. And I think a lot of the commissions and committees have to write this kind of annual report, like this list of accomplishments. So I wrote it for 2020, and we've done one ever since I've been on the commission. So for the last, 3 years or so. And I think that that's also a source for your different committees or commissions, if you do have an annual report of what's been accomplished since 2008. And you don't need to list everything, but I think listing some of the major things, like for us in the Open Space Preservation Commission, there was a real intentional shift from the acquisition of open space, because there wasn't a lot of it and there wasn't a lot of money to spend on it, to how we could make the most of the open space we had. And that's why we shifted to the Native Plant and Pollinator Garden Initiative. And so within your respective committees or commissions, you may have found similar shifts and changes. And I also think, we should really talk about the pandemic and COVID. I mean, I certainly did in my annual report, to be able to say, hey, things are different now. And this is what has been, impacted based on the state of the world right now.
Let's just discuss that a little bit, though. I'm on the fence for that. I know COVID is a very big thing, and we spent a whole year with it. But should that drive a 10-year master plan? And
I don't think it should drive it.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, I don't think it should drive it, Tom. But in my opinion, to not mention it or to not sort of acknowledge the fact that it may have shifted or reprioritized some of the things that are important to us now, I think would be not a good omission.
No, I like that. I like that part. Reshift the focus because of it. I think we should. Yeah. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
and I know in our rec goals, I know that we talked about preparedness, right? Like it's something that none of us were necessarily prepared for. Now we know there should always be a plan B kind of in place lightly in terms of if something was like that was to happen again, let's use our lessons learned and make sure we kind of have, it's not a topic we completely ignore should something like that happen again.
Right.
And again, I think I'm interested in that one because in the public infrastructure, public facilities thing, I've been working to broaden the concept of infrastructure from physical buildings to technology and other things as applicable. And I think there's an important lesson there out of the pandemic, and that pandemic, I think, has pushed us much more toward electronic communications in a variety of ways. I think that kind of thing is going to last in some form and be a strong have a strong impact on the way people interact with government going forward. Maybe not as fast as theoretically possible, but I think that's changing the way people deal both with each other in terms of communications as well as with government. And so we're wiring in, and Will can speak to this better than I can, but MTC has done great work in terms of a strategic plan outlining some future directions and issues relative to technology integration. And that's going to be an important part of the public facilities piece, the public infrastructure piece that I think is driven into some reasonable degree by the pandemic. Would you
Are
agree
you
with that?
saying that we're gonna have a virtual town meeting and virtual voting?
Who knows? We'll see. But Will, do you want to have anything to add to that? Do you disagree with that?
Well, I don't think we're going to have a virtual town meeting and virtual voting. Those are difficult. And, I'm looking forward that we'll have a meeting like we did last year. But in terms of our strategic plan, a lot of that is really, the direction that we'd like to go in the next 5 years or so.
Which again, I think is an important part of the master plan, to have the placeholder, just like we've talked about other placeholders here, that people can refer to, and then the various committees and departments can refer to that as they need to get support and leverage for activities that they plan and budget that they want to request to do those kind of things.
So Karen and Kat and Kristen, I think that outline is great. And I kind of came to the same conclusion because I started trying to edit, and I'm doing the land use and zoning, and we had decided that that we wouldn't set goals for that chapter, that they would come organically from the goals in other chapters. So when I started trying to edit from 2008, I said, most of this has nothing to do with our goals for this year. So then I went and started with the goals we'll write the narrative that reflects those goals. Just one point of clarity, that the master plan is owned by the planning board, not the Board of Selectmen. So although it is,
Just to be clear.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Although we seek the Board of Selectmen's input, it's the planning board that accepts the.
So we should say not Board of Selectmen input. We should say planning board input. Yeah.
Get the Board of Selectmen
now. And what do you think, since you're a part of said planning board, Mimi?
That is up for re-election.
Yeah, which we're all gonna support and help with, I hope.
I have to come by and sign your re-election paper.
I just did today. I went to 19 Oregon in Ashland instead of 19 Oregon in Southborough because it just got plugged into my GPS. So beware, I realized my error and got to the right place.
It happens all the time. We get their pool chemicals delivered to us.
Nice.
Are they running for planning board too? Are they Ashland people running for planning board also?
No, they weren't, and their house is not blue. So I knew I was in the wrong place.
I just imagined Karen walking in their front door oh, where's the papers for me to sign? Why are you here?
Yeah, but seriously though, Mimi, with the planning board, are we gonna need to formally run it by them? How much time do we need to give them to review it? As we think about our kind of milestones and stuff, what are your thoughts?
What my plan is to work with the very talented Sarah and put together a.
Whoa. She's busy.
If she can take 10 minutes away from the housing chapter. To put together an outline of where we are
Cool. Okay.
with the goals and recommendations now, and see if there's any additional input.
Hey, Mimi.
Yeah.
Just a comment on planning board versus Board of Selectmen. I think you're exactly right. The planning board drives this process, certainly. But I did take the opportunity as meeting before the most recent one to give a quick 2-minute update to the Board of Selectmen on where we were in the process. And there was actually a surprising amount of interest there in terms of wanting to see where we are. And Unfortunately, our agendas are pretty tight now for the next couple of meetings, but I'm guessing maybe in early April kind of time frame, there might be a slot to do an update. And for me, the challenge is that the resources generally are mostly controlled by the Board of Selectmen in terms of the budget process. So if there are things that we want to get done, I think it's important to get the selectmen on board as much as possible from a funding standpoint, and working with the planning board on selecting key initiatives that fit into the budget process and the capital plan and those kind of things, to find ways to actually get things done where those things cost money, which most things do. So to me, it's sort of a parallel process, and I'm not expecting a huge amount of input from the Board of Selectmen, but I think some way, we talked at our last meeting about a summary that pulls out the major goals and has a 10-minute quick summary to say, here's where we're headed, here's some key findings, here's the structure that we're headed toward, and let people offer opinions, suggestions, or whatever, and stay connected that way as we go along. I think could be very helpful in terms of ultimately getting the financial support to do some of these things. So, and if the planning board has different opinions in terms of how the priorities are set, then I think it's important to communicate that to the selectmen as well and hash that out. So planning and Board of Selectmen are consistent in terms of, here are the highest priorities that we want to focus on. And maybe at some point, maybe after town meeting, a joint meeting with selectmen and planning board to look at what the recommendations and goals are and say, can we select a handful of these that we want to push on during FY22 or 23 or whatever here, to get that plugged into the resource planning activity.
So Sam, so if I could just not summarize, but so we should pretty much socialize this to both the planning board and to the Board of Selectmen.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. And just continue as much as possible to make sure everybody's generally on the same page. If one of those boards says, wait a minute, we don't care about X, and the other one says X is our highest priority, let's get that sorted out sooner rather than later. And wind up with a handful of things that everybody seems to be interested in pushing forward consistently. For example, if something in zoning, then planning board certainly takes the lead with that. If it's something that's driven by capital expenditures, then selectmen and advisory and capital planning committee or whatever need to be on board. So it's a sort of an ongoing coordination process, communication process there, that I think will be critical to actually get things done. It wasn't not done so much after the 2008 plan. It was sort of, not a high item on the priority list for many boards, in my recollection, in the 5-10 years after 2008, sadly.
So do we want to do we want to have a set of goals so our draft, not the final one, our draft is to both boards? What's our timing to give them the heads up of the document?
I'm thinking early April for both.
I mean, we had proposed with our open space and green initiatives that we try to get a first run of this done by the end of the month, March 31st.
Yeah.
3 weeks away. I mean, it feels doable to Kristen for rec. It felt doable to Kat and I for our sections. It is going to take some kind of nose to the grindstone, like actually just sitting down and writing stuff. But I think if we could all work towards that goal, if you guys feel like it's reasonable, that might be a good way to kind of push it forward.
Very helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, doesn't have to be perfect at that point, certainly.
No.
It's pretty good to give people a feel. People are going to be overwhelmed. There's a whole lot of stuff here. And I think people are going to, again, take some time to absorb. But to begin that socialization process, I think is important. And not only just planning board and selectmen, but sort of back and forth between the various committees that folks here represent as well, to keep everybody sort of informed and hopefully interested in how we move forward in a consistent way off of this.
And I think you don't really know how much time it's going to take till you actually sit down and start writing. That's my experience.
More than you think. I've just
and I think also that's when you're going to figure out, like, at least for me, like when I think about our chapter, which tables need to be updated, and I have no idea where to get that information. So figuring that out is going to take some time. So maybe by March 31st, I don't have all the tables updated, but at least I know what needs to get done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hey, Sarah, I know Catherine is having audio. Oh, yeah, audio issues. I don't know if she could put in chat or something.
Yeah, definitely can use that chat feature. I'm not sure. I mean, there isn't anything on my end as like a
Okay.
simple administrator that I can do. You know, it looks like she's connected. You know,
I'm just reading the Q&A stuff. Sorry, Kat.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah, Kat, thank you for.
One of the questions she was asking, what is the turnaround time that the Board of Selectmen need to review and feel like they have plenty of time? Same question for Planning Board.
Yeah.
The selectmen typically are the, I guess, Thursday before the selectmen's meeting. It needs, whatever we're going to talk about needs to go in the packet of material that's distributed. And you know, anything before that to individual selectmen would be fine. My sense is most people don't actually spend a lot of time on it before the packet goes out, because I don't know what's going to be there. Marty and Lisa work on the agendas, so the rest of us wait till the packet comes out, I think. So, you know, half a week, 5 or 6 days before the selectmen's meeting is the time to get something to the selectmen. Julie has joined us, fresh from victory at the advisory committee.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
Thanks for joining, Julie.
Speaking with advisory and then hung up and saw an email that school's opening on March 21st. So then I needed to take a minute to celebrate. So now I'm here.
Julie, you missed our vote to deputize you to actually be the editor for the entire all of our writing styles.
You say that, I actually really enjoy writing.
Okay.
And
that include updating all the
I didn't say that, but
2008?
I love editing.
Brilliant,
Hey,
brilliant.
Oh, no.
She's
but don't ask me until my kids are back in school 5 days. But I'm happy to.
That's great, Julie.
Did everybody hear that? We found her.
I
out.
did,
yeah.
Recorded, right?
Recorded.
I mean,
I
I was
don't
gonna
like the
say,
graphic part, but the actual text, I like that.
And I was going to say, I love to do it as well. I've been doing it for
Okay.
Awesome.
years.
well, God bless you both.
You can do.
Sorry?
Judith, you and I we can you know, I'm not going to fight you over it if you really want it, but we can.
No,
figure
but I was going to say, maybe we could do it together. Maybe
Yeah,
there's a
I
way
think
we
that's
could-
great. Maybe split them
Yeah.
up and then cross them back or something.
Yeah.
I was going to give Judith a pass because she's done so much so far on this thing, but if you're still willing,
You know,
what?
winter hiking season finishes this next Saturday, so then I have nothing to do. So,
Uh-oh.
We're
well,
happy to fill your days, Judith.
not quite true, but
So what's next?
So the next was, although we've kind of talked about some of them, was chapters. I don't know if anyone wants to discuss in more detail the chapter work they've done, or just leave that till people have had more of a chance to put more time in. Or
I don't have anything new on mine, sadly.
Yeah, neither do I.
you know, well, that's easy then. No, I mean, seriously, I think, you know, having got Karen's and Kat and Kristen's, you know, chapter outline, you know, I look at that and I go, right, I feel much more confident about being able to, you know, take my first draft and go back to it now. So I was kind of burying it under the carpet for a while, going, please go away, please go away.
And yeah, and just thank you, Karen.
Well,
And
thank
Kat.
you to everybody. You know, it's been a process. With what I put together with Kat and then with Kristen is just building off of what you had already put together, Judith. So I think this is all like a work in progress. You know, we're all kind of building on each other's stuff.
Whole team.
Karen, did you circulate that outline that you just showed us? I don't remember seeing that.
No, so I wanted to, honestly, we just finalized it, Kat and Kristen and I, a couple days ago.
Okay.
So the goal was to kind of see if you guys thought it was useful for any of the other chapters. And because you're thinking maybe it might be helpful, what I'll do is I'll upload it to the folder.
Great.
So that you have it. Yeah.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Sure.
You guys get the gold star for this week. Good step forward.
Well, it's been.
So anything else? Do we want to do minutes now?
Sure.
Shortest meeting of all time. Wow.
So I'm just to remind everybody, this is a minute. If everyone can see what I'm sharing. This is the shared folder, the shared drive. And everything that we've worked on at the moment is in this folder called Draft Master Plan. So all the goals and objectives are here. I also uploaded this week the survey report and our analysis of the survey report. That's what Karen was referring to. She's going to include in the introduction. And there's also, just in case you want to go back and just take another look at it as part of the how do you create the narrative of how we've got to where we are now. This is if it will open up. This document here is it's not going to open up. Hang on. It's the vision forum. So for those who were not part of the committee in the early days, we actually had when was it? November 2019. We had this open house where we took public input on the vision, and that's just kind of another useful document to refer to. So this folder, this draft master plan, is where I would suggest that we've got something that we feel is a reasonable first go at a chapter, that we could upload it to here. And Karen, maybe you want to put the template in here as well.
Are you saying to put it in? I'm actually just uploading it right now. So I put it in the 2020 draft master plan folder. Is that the one you're suggesting?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's there right now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
So I put both the outline and our current version of the open space rec.
Good. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah. So that what it says, master plan chapter outline. Of course, that relates to my particular chapter, but we can see that as a kind of framework that other people could build from as well.
Yeah. And if anyone has problems getting into the shared folder or the uploading documents or whatever, just let me know, because Sarah and I can help on that. We did some fiddling around with that, so.
Yeah.
But it'll only take a minute, Tom. It'll only take a minute if we need Sarah's help.
Yep, you just set up
Again, you're using
It's
my.
like you guys have a group project. Tom brought the markers. Sarah did all the work, and you both get the A.
Thank you. I did buy the coffee.
That's important.
I would have bought
That
the
is
coffee
definitely
if I could.
You bought the Zoom coffee.
But thanks for highlighting that.
I know those are the days when we used to come to a meeting in the senior center, and there used to be leftover cakes that you could snack on.
Yeah.
Stale muffins.
Like an over long time ago.
That
Good
sounds
old
like a
days.
dream right now.
It does.
I have to tell you, this is a really exciting day for me because I got my first vaccine today.
Fantastic.
So I can actually feel that those days at the senior center are going to come back.
How did you manage it?
Congratulations.
Feel those antibodies growing and growing in there.
Yeah, my arm's a little sore, but Yeah, it feels
How
good.
did you sneak it? How did you manage to get the vaccine?
I got the vaccine because I'm a home health care giver for my mom. And so they allowed me to qualify as a home health care worker.
And your mom got it too?
Yep.
Good. Good.
Yep.
Yeah, they were actually, there was an eBay or Craigslist market for people to accompany seniors to go get their shots.
Yeah.
So Sam, when do you want to go?
Oh, let me get my walker out, and then you can go.
I'm getting my second shot this week.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yay, congratulations.
Oh, why did you invite me?
Yeah,
Come on down.
his caregiver. Apparently,
His
there was a
caregiver.
riot at the Springfield site when early on, when a bunch of people showed up and the appointment system was messed up, and they had, literally a couple hundred angry seniors out there, and they had to call the National Guard.
You don't piss off a senior, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Well, I got mine at Fenway, and it was incredibly well organized. I was so impressed. I really gave you back some faith. Yeah.
Where was it?
At Fenway.
Oh,
If
Fenway.
Yep.
They're actually giving shots down on Newton Street.
Really?
Medical?
At the Reliant?
Southborough Medical, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's going to continue. I think I heard something to the effect that they were having difficulty getting the stuff. But if you have a doctor down there at Reliant, you probably can go through those guys to get it.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a vaccine glut at some point here. The shipments are really going up rapidly, so it's going to see what happens. But
That's happening in Indiana.
I heard tonight that they're changing the sign-up process, so you're going to be able to pre-register on the 7 state sites, and then they'll let you know when there's appointments available.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
That's how it should have been.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been
That's too
being
smart.
tested weekly since June, since my mom came home from her nursing home. And in the beginning, it was absolutely chaos. It was so hard for me to get a test. And now it's really quite easy. So I have a feeling with the vaccine, it's going to be a similar.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Agree.
Okay, get us back on track, Mimi.
Now that we've covered that,
Yeah, sorry, I think that was my fault. I had to share my news.
minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th? Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yes.
so move.
So I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Stivers,
Aye.
Signs,
Aye.
Marklear,
Aye.
McKee,
He doesn't have audio.
Connolly,
Aye.
Savidovich,
Aye.
Watson,
Yes.
Warren,
Yes.
Blazemitsky,
Yes.
Lavalde.
Yes.
Okay. And the next meeting that was on our schedule is for April 7th. Is that still okay with everybody?
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
I won't be able to make it. I do have something that night, but I mean, by all means, carry on.
I'm not seeing it in my calendar, Mimi. It does work for me, but did you send out a calendar invite?
I didn't, but Judith did the whole year.
Oh, okay.
So it was on that list. So I'm just going by that.
Sure.
I can get my my draft to you guys prior to that. Judy, is it okay if I send it to you if I can't make that meeting on the 7th?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that.
Could someone send out a calendar invite for the next couple of meetings, just because that's what I live by?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry. Who made the motion?
I think.
Sam,
Oh, sorry. And who seconded?
Kristen Lavalde.
She can't second.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Officio.
Bill Signs.
Okay. Sorry.
So all in favor, Latrell, yes, Stivers,
Yes,
Signs,
Yes,
Markleer,
Yes.
thumbs up or down, McKee? Connolly,
Yes.
Savidovich,
Yes.
Watson,
Yes. And
Warren?
Kat also just voted to adjourn.
Yes.
She's typing in the Q&A.
Oh, okay. Glazemitsky
Yes.
in Lavalde.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.